Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for watching today. We're going to take the stock case and rebuild it using a 35 spline spool from Quick Performance. It'll allow you to run 35 spline, Stranger, Moser axles, and a stock case. So let's go ahead and get this thing taken apart and get started. Got our pinion out. Take note of this shim. This is probably the shim that it's definitely going to go back in there, but it's probably what it's going to take to get the right depth on your ring and pinion gear mesh. Okay, now that seal and bearing's out, the next thing we're doing is pop these races out of here. There's one here and one here. So we're going to go ahead and knock them out. Alright, next thing we're going to do is knock this pinion support bearing out. This needs to go from, I don't know, the back of the case towards the front. So here's the parts that I like to keep. Now the other day I was at the swap meet and I bought pretty much all this for 25 bucks. Now I usually pay about 50 or 60 bucks. Sometimes I might pay 75 if it's a nodular case. But about 50 bucks is what you can usually pick this up for complete. So I save the case with the caps and the bolts, the bearing adjusters, they go in here, the lock nuts, or the locks for your adjusters, they go here and they lock into these little grooves, and the bolts, the pinion support. Now a lot of people like to run the Daytona one. I've never had a problem with these. I've never blew one up. I run about 600 horsepower with a 750 shot, or with a 150 shot, 200 shot sometimes, and I've never had a problem out of this. I even run the smaller U-joints and these short yokes. I save these. This is a shim for your pinion support, and this is how you adjust your pinion depth, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. Save this clip because these are hard. I don't even know the part number for this, so I save this for your pinion gear here, or your rear pinion bearing. I save the bolts, save the ring gear bolts, save the front nut. You can buy these pretty cheap, but I reuse them. And then I save this just for measurement purposes. This is your gosh dog, crush sleeve, to adjust the preload on your bearings. So what I'm going to do now is clean everything up, and y'all might be wondering, why didn't you clean it up before? Well, if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine, but just know that after you clean it up before, you're going to have to clean it up afterwards too. So I usually just clean them up after I'm done. That way I only have to pull a pressure washer out one time. So I'm going to put all these bolts and hardware in the chim dip and get everything cleaned up, and then I'm going to pressure wash the case and the pinion support, and we'll start putting everything back together. So here's a set of gears we have. This is a Richmond set of Richmond gears. I picked these up at the swap meet for 35 bucks. Well, let me back up. I bought a set of 35 spline axles and this set of gears for $80. So I really don't know what to price it at, but I picked gear sets up for 35, 40, 50 bucks. Sometimes I'll pay 100 if they're brand new, but not usually. Anyways, you can see there's some surface rust on there. There's no real edges or any nicks or anything. So what I'm gonna try to do is take some steel wool and some transmission fluid and kind of clean up these gears and around the inside. You can see the backside of it's, I mean, they're in great shape. These just they had a little run time on them, and so it polished these surfaces, and then somebody took them out and set them on a shelf. I mean, I guess that's what happened. It don't even look like there's a whole lot of wear. We'll see once we get this rust knocked down. But we're just gonna take our steel wool. I'm gonna start out with the medium grade and a little bit of transmission fluid, just to kind of lubricate it up some, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so yeah, that does a pretty good job cleaning them up. I really don't think there's a whole lot of runtime on these gears at all. There's hardly no wear. We'll go ahead and get these cleaned up. Okay guys, so here we have all of our parts laid out for this 9-inch center section rebuild, or differential rebuild. The special thing about this is a 35 spline spool. It's from Quick Performance, and this fits a stock case. Now most of the time a 35 spline spool will not fit a stock case because this area here is thicker and the case takes a larger bearing. So Quick Performance makes this spool, and what's unique or different about it is instead of the splines being in this area here, they're right here on the end. And what that does is it creates a dense area. It helps, the splines about this long, they're about 1.5 inches long, and what it does is it helps the stress on this weak point, because most people will tell you it'll crack right here because it's so thin, because the diameter of the axle is so large. So this is a unique thing. So if you're going to do this and you're going to buy a set of axles, I would definitely wait until you have your spool to measure your axle length with spool. Now I bought some used axles. They're short enough to where this will actually work with them. So we're going to go over some parts. We have a stock case. Talked about that. Got a used set of gears, 485 gears. Now you see me take the cloth and clean them up. They cleaned them up pretty well. There's still a little bit of pitting. This thing's not going to see a whole lot of road time. Okay, so I'm not too worried about the pitting. I'm not worried about noise or howling or anything like that. We're still going to set it up right, but we're just going to make this work. Okay. Now to the new parts. The new parts I bought are a spool, carrier bearing. This is a pinion bearings, pinion races, a rear pinion bearing. I bought this bearing off of eBay. It was the cheapest one I could find. Okay, it's $13.99, $2 shipping, so this thing was 15 bucks at the part store. The $47. We got carrier bearings, carrier races, and a new pinion seal. Okay. The other thing I do, or I like, I could have saved a couple of dollars by not doing this, but it sure makes it convenient setting them up, and I like it, is we're replacing this crush sleeve with, it goes right here in between the two pinion bearings. This is a crush sleeve, crush collar, crush washer. We're replacing it with a solid, and the solid comes with shims. Right now I have a bunch of these left over from other builds, so that's why we save this, is so I can measure this, get the correct amount of shims, and that will help us set up our gear to pinion. Okay, Now, the new parts total on this is about $225. These bearings are getting hard to find. Prices are going up. I did this about a year ago. It cost me about $60 in bearings. Now we spent close to $100. I think it's probably gone up about 20 bucks in bearings. The spool was $120. This kit was $14. Plus taxes, and shipping on all of it was free. Now I am using a used set of gears. You know, I probably, you know, very little is what I paid for this, but you probably pick up a set like this for 60 or 75 bucks. You pick up one of these cases complete for about 50 bucks and save all your hardware, because all this little stuff adds up. So with that being said, I have probably around 300 bucks invested in all of this. Now, you could reuse bearings, you could find a used spool. I couldn't find a used spool for this build. Now, I run 33 splines on several other cars, and you can find a 33 spline spool and axles fairly cheap also. It's kind of rare, but if you're going 31 spline, you could save a lot of money by just putting a mini spool in there and using all your original bearings and everything. I mean, you're looking at under 100 bucks to do that. So but yeah, so we're gonna get started. First thing we're gonna do is go over to the press bearings onto the spool and the pinion. Now I'm only pressing one side of these pinion bearings on this side, and the other side we'll have to do once we have this on. And then we'll come back and start putting it together and setting up lash and pinion depth. Okay, so we're about to press this bearing. This is an M88048 bearing. We're about to press it onto this pinion gear. Now, one thing you want to make sure you do is you don't want to press along this surface of your bearing. You want your load to be on this part. Okay, we're gonna put it face down. We're gonna put the bearing on the way it goes. We're gonna put it on the plates. I have to lift this up just a little bit. Tighten it back up, and then we're going to center it the best we can here. Try to make sure that it pushes down on there straight. Now, before we get started, you can also put this bearing in the oven to like 400 degrees for about 30 minutes. I'll heat it up. You put this in the freezer, and it'll shrink the pinion gear, expand the bearing, and most time it'll slide right on. However, I have a press that makes it a lot easier, so we're going to do it that way. So now we're just going to apply some pressure to it. You can see it's going on there nice and easy, no problem. You can see the bearing is flush up against the gear. So this one's finished. Next thing we'll do is put our shims in here, put it in the pinion, or put it in the pinion support, and put our other bearing on. And we'll do that back here. So next we're going to put the carrier bearings on, and make sure all this is clean. Now this bearing is at LM102949. I'm going to do it one side at a time. Put the bearing on there, try to get it straight, stand it up. I'm using base plate, let me use a top plate, and give it a good eyeball, try to get it straight. Go ahead and center this up before I get to pressing on it. As you can see, the bearing's flush up against the lip here. So now we're going to get our other bearing. Do it the same way. Okay, now we've got our bearings installed. We make sure they're both facing outwards. Okay, just like you took them off the old one, or just like they were on the old one. Now we'll go put all this stuff back together. What we're gonna do is take and get our races drove into the carrier. Now, it's important, I feel like I need to say this. These go opposite directions. They do not face each other. They go opposite. So they're gonna, you got the taper ends, they're gonna go like this. The big ends are gonna go together in here. Go like this. Okay? That's important. Both of them go like this. You can see that. Tapered here. Tapered here. That's the way we want it. So you can use the old race, put it in there. I just use a little punch. I'm careful with it. They make bearing driver kits at Harbor Freight and stuff like that also. Now those are fully seated. They're flush up against the lip right here. Take your gear, install your gear. This is I've said it several times, this is the only replaceable part that I really save, and it's only because I measure it. You want to measure the width like this, and I got 4270, 4285, 43, 4280. So I'm gonna say 4280. So now this kit comes with a pre-cut spacer, and it's 4220. So each one of these shims are I think they're 10,000s, but sometimes they put a thicker one in there. Yeah, like this one's thicker. This one is 20 thousandths. Okay, so we're looking for one that's about 50 thousandths thick. Okay, so I found a shim that's 60 thousandths. That'll put me a little looser preload than what it was before. Now, this process, we might have to do this a couple times just to get the right preload on there. And typically I like to run them a little tighter than looser. That way it gives them, because these bearings, once they break in, they will loosen up quite a bit. So what we're going to do is put the bearing on. Set it on here. I like to take the spline or the U-joint, Alright, so we have this drove down on there as far as it'll go. Got it tight, and we have a pretty good preload. Sometimes I like to see them a little thicker than that, a little tighter, but I'm not too worried about it. I think it'll be fine. There's no wobble in it, no play in it. It's a little tight, but I think it's good. So now what we're going to do is take this nut back off. And we're going to drive this yoke back off, because we need to put our seal on here. So sometimes you got to give them a pretty good little tap to get them loose. And you don't want to gall up these threads, since this is all fine threaded. So get your edge of your nut and your pinion square, put it on something, drive it out, or you can press it out if you have press. Alright, so that one started moving. Go ahead and take the nut back off, use a dead blow, finish driving it out. There we go. Now we got our bearings in there, our spacer, next thing we're gonna do is put seal on it, 7044 NA. Goes on like so. Said clean it all out good. Take your little hammer and get it started. Sometimes if anybody's ever put a seal in, you know how tedious this can be. I'm just going to take a little grease and rub around this lip right here to help so that seal doesn't run dry. You put a little, you can put a lot. Don't really matter. Slide it on, press it down. Now, you do not have to run Loctite on these. Some people do. These factory nuts are squeezed right here at the top, so it's like a lock nut. And if you get a new one, they typically come with like Loctite already built into them. I don't run it. I've never had an issue with it. Okay, now I'm just going to use this one. Put everything up, just tighten it down, but I'll come back and torque it down with the torque wrench here in a little bit. Alright, so now we're on to our carrier. Okay, so first thing I do is put the rear pinion support bearing. 4 to 9 inches is about the only rear end that has this. And I think it's a great ideal, although these bearings are like 47, 50 bucks if you go to AutoZone and buy them, or O'Reilly's. The part number on it is R1535TAV, and I got this one off of eBay. It was 15 bucks. It came from Quick Performance. Now, Quick Performance is about the most cost-effective people you can go through if you're buying parts. I will say that they're, other than bearings, they're pretty reasonable. Now the bearing just goes in there like that. Press it down. Take my dead blow hammer. Okay, you can see our bearing is flush on the bottom side here. And next thing we do is take this retainer ring and put it in there. And we save this funny looking washer thing. This goes down. These ears are facing up like this, and they will dig into the sidewalls and keep it from pressing out. So that'll go in next. Install our pinion gear. Now, if you look at this shim, you can see this is an important thing, because this pinion, the pinion carrier has to go in a certain way for it to drain oil back down into the rear case. And the way it does is if you look right here, this one doesn't have a rounded edge. Neither does this one. I mean, it's rounded here, but it comes to a point. These all have rounded edges. that's the way this goes. It's like that. And if you look at your carrier, it is the same way. See how these have a little lump? This is just a peak, more or less. So that goes in like so. We'll tap it down. And now these shims, we may have to adjust this shim right here. We might have to put more, might have to take it out. We don't know. I'm going back with what this case already had, and we'll see from there. Okay, now what we're gonna do is put our pinion gear on our spool. Now some of y'all might not have this problem, but pollen's really bad out here. There's dust in general, so I'm gonna wipe it down. You want both of these surfaces clean. Okay. So I'm just gonna set it on there like that, kind of push down a little bit. And then I'm going to flip it over to where I can line up the bolt holes. Alright. I'm going to take a bolt and I'm going to put in it to hold it. Alright, I'm doing it on this side also. Alright, now what I'm going to do, I like using this orange high strength removable. It works really good. This is just Loctite. You can use red. You may want to use blue. Sometimes you do get some vibrations in these rear ends, and I like to put a little Loctite on them. Okay guys, this is where it gets tricky. Torque specs on these bolts are 70 foot-pounds. Now, a lot of times I like putting it together and get my 70 foot-pounds, and I might have to do that, but we're gonna see if we get it done like this. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is put our ring gear and spool in the case. Now what we're gonna do is slide our bearings on, our races on first. And set them down in there. And this can be a little tricky, I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Alright, now that that's done, we're going to take and put our caps on. Remember, they're sided, so one will only line up on one side and the other will only line up on the other side. And double check it. Okay, so we're going to tighten them down. We're going to tighten them down and then back them off just a touch. We're taking Never Sees, our caps, our adjuster nuts. they can be a little tricky to get started. Alright, and we're going to run them up till it just barely touches. And then we're going to shake our ring gear. Now I think that's going to be pretty good. I'm back it off just a hair. Alright, they make a special tool to tighten these up. But I took these channel locks and I ground them down. It fits in these holes. And they're still functional also. So, put them in there. And turn it. And we'll get it tightened up. You notice, people talk about backlash. There's no play in here. Okay? So, to get a little play, we need to slack off. We need the gear to move this way. So we're gonna back this off just maybe a quarter turn. Doesn't take much. Quarter turn. And then come over here and tighten this one a quarter of a turn. Well, maybe a little more because it wasn't tight. So the more you move it that way, you can't hear it. But it's got a little movement in there. It's got a little backlash. So half turn. About a half turn. You hear it? It's getting a little more now. Alright, so now we'll set up and go ahead and tighten these down. Check it again. It's got a little bit of backlash, okay? So that's good, that's what we want. So we have our dial indicator. Now, I'm be honest with you, I usually do this just by feel because I've done it quite a few times, and you know, like, you can feel it engaging and disengaging the gear just barely, but it is. And usually that's plenty. You don't want it tight where there's no movement between the two gears. You want it just a little bit loose. So we'll zero this gauge, and I think right here we got about, I don't know, 12 thousandths. Right at 10. Now, if you wanted it tighter, if you wanted 6, it recommends 6 to 10. I go 15 to 20 sometimes, and it's fine. You know, but if you're particular about it, if you wanted it tighter, you would tighten this side and loosen this side, and that would move your gear that direction. So you would tighten this side and loosen that side, and it would move your gear that direction. Now, I'm going to leave this like this because I'm comfortable with it. I like it. It's fine. But if you don't have one of these, all you have to do is feel, and you can hear it. You can hear it clinking. It'll touch one side of the pinion gear and then the other. And that's all you want. It's fine. And I think this is where what scares a lot of people is not knowing, you know, too loose, too tight. But I'm comfortable with it. Alright, Now what we're looking for is a depth here. We want it to be right in the middle of this gear, which it pretty much is. It could be a little deeper, but it's not bad. We don't want it out here on the edge, and we don't want it down in the crack. We want it somewhere in the middle. So what we're looking for is this material to be removed, right? So I'm not really happy with the results of butt paste. So let's try a little Never Seas. Alright. Now we're going to do it again. We're just going to... I will say this. If you look at these gears, where I didn't put any... This is a good one right here. You see how it's wearing in the middle of this gear? It's not wearing high, it's not wearing low. It's right in the middle. That Never Seas is right in the middle of this gear. That tells me this has got a pretty good pinion depth on it. I'm comfortable with that. Especially right here, you can see. These are good. This is a good pinion depth. I'm happy with it. It's not out here on the edge. It's not down in the valley of it either. It's not on the peak, it's not in the valley, it's right in the middle. I'm comfortable with that. Okay, so we're going to torque our main caps to 80 foot-pounds. Okay, now that those are torqued, we're going to take these little locking tabs and put on here. And these bolts, tighten them tight. You know what? I'm actually going to put some Loctite on them. That way, this one bolt could ruin an entire rear end. But it says 10 foot-pounds. I'd put all you feel comfortable putting on there. Don't break them off though. Okay, y'all, thanks for watching. Stay tuned because my next video I'm going to take this and put in a 9-inch housing. We'll shorten the housing, and I'll show you how to do that on a very budget friendly way to do it. And I've done a couple of them like this before. It turns out pretty good. Okay guys, thanks for watching. Remember, stay tuned. Next we're going to take this center trunk and put in a housing, and I'll show you how to narrow the housing in a very affordable way that works really well. Please like, subscribe, comment, and we'll see you back next time. Thank you.